This book is not about becoming louder, faster, or more impressive to the world. It is about becoming clearer within yourself. We live in a time of constant noise. Endless opinions, instant reactions, and pressure to respond before we think. Most people move through life on impulse, driven by emotion, distraction, and external approval. Few ever stop to ask who is actually in control of their thoughts, their choices, or their direction. This audiobook is an invitation to step out of that noise, to slow down, to observe, to think with intention. It is a guide for those who want to develop a quieter, sharper form of intelligence, one that does not announce itself but steadily shapes outcomes. Dangerous intelligence is not about manipulation, ego, or superiority. It is about awareness, restraint, and self-mastery. It is the ability to remain calm under pressure, disciplined in chaos, and deliberate in a reactive world. It is the intelligence that acts instead of reacts, chooses instead of drifts, and sees clearly when others are clouded by emotion. The ideas in this book are meant to be practiced, not rushed. Each chapter builds a way of thinking that helps you protect your energy, sharpen your judgment, and move through life with purpose. You will be encouraged to question habits, challenge automatic reactions, and replace impulse with intention. You may find some ideas uncomfortable at first. Growth often is. You may recognize parts of yourself you've never examined closely. That awareness is not weakness. It is the beginning of control. This is not a book about perfection. It is about progress, not about dominance, but direction. Not about appearing intelligent, but becoming grounded, disciplined, and internally strong. If you choose to engage with these ideas honestly, you will begin to notice subtle but powerful changes, calmer decisions, clearer thinking, stronger boundaries, and a deeper sense of control over your own life. Listen slowly, reflect often, apply selectively. What follows is not advice meant to impress. It is a framework meant to reshape how you think, decide, and move through the world. Welcome to Dangerous Intelligence. Chapter 1. Master yourself. Before you try to master anything else. Before you attempt to improve your life, sharpen your skills, or outthink the world around you, there is one place you must begin. Yourself. Not your environment, not your circumstances, not other people, you. Because without control over your own mind and behavior, no amount of intelligence will protect you. Knowledge without self-mastery becomes unstable. It leaks under pressure. It collapses at the exact moment you need it most. Many people chase external power, money, influence, recognition, respect. But they skip the inner work. They want confidence without discipline, freedom without responsibility, authority without control. That shortcut never works. The truth is uncomfortable but simple. The first real sign of intelligence is self-mastery. If you cannot manage your reactions, impulses, and emotions, you are not directing your life. You are being dragged through it. Look closely at where most problems actually come from. Not from lack of talent, not from lack of opportunity, but from moments of poor control. A sentence spoken too fast, a decision made in anger, a temptation followed without thought, a reaction that felt good for 5 seconds and caused damage for years. People lose relationships, careers, reputations, and peace of mind not because they are incapable, but because they are unregulated. Self-control does not mean suppressing emotion or pretending you feel nothing. It means awareness. It means noticing what arises inside you and choosing not to let it take command. It is the ability to pause when every instinct tells you to react. That pause, the small space between stimulus and response, is where intelligence actually lives. The more you train yourself to create that space, the more powerful you become. When you master yourself, you become difficult to manipulate. Highly emotional people are predictable. They can be provoked, rushed, guilted, flattered, or pressured. A self-governed person cannot be easily moved in this way. They do not hand others control over their mood or decisions. They choose their responses deliberately, and that choice gives them quiet authority. This kind of mastery does not come from motivation or inspiration. It comes from practice. From choosing restraint when reaction feels easier. From staying with discomfort instead of escaping it. From valuing long-term position over short-term relief. Each time you hold your tongue when anger rises, you strengthen your mind. Each time you delay gratification, you sharpen discipline. Each time you act intentionally instead of impulsively, you deepen your intelligence. Understand this clearly. The world will constantly try to pull reactions out of you. People will test you. Situations will pressure you. Circumstances will tempt you to abandon your standards. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the training ground. Self-mastery is built in friction, not comfort. In intention, not convenience. As this control develops, something subtle but powerful begins to change. Your thinking clears. Your decisions carry more weight. You stop wasting energy on damage control and regret. You begin to trust yourself because you know you won't sabotage your future for a temporary emotion. That self-trust becomes a foundation. From it grows confidence, consistency, and leadership over your own life. Do not rush this step. Do not minimize it. Every form of mastery you may want later, mental, financial, social, strategic, depends on this one skill. Without it, everything remains unstable. With it, everything becomes possible. When you master yourself, you build something rare. A calm, disciplined, intelligent core that is not easily shaken by chaos, pressure, or noise. Start here. Master yourself first. Everything else follows. Chapter 2. Learn to think, not just consume. We live in a time where information is everywhere. Answers are instant. Opinions flood every corner of the internet. Knowledge is cheap, abundant, and always at your fingertips. And yet, clear thinking has become a rare skill. That contrast tells you something essential. Merely knowing more does not make you intelligent. For many, constant consumption has dulled the very ability to think. People confuse collecting facts with understanding. They read, scroll, watch, and listen endlessly, but rarely pause to process. Facts pile up like ornaments, admired but unused. Minds become storage closets rather than workshops. True intelligence is not measured by how much you take in, it is measured by what you do with it. It is about connecting ideas, questioning assumptions, and forming independent conclusions. If you never process information, you remain passive. Others decide what matters, what is true, and what deserves your attention. That dependence may seem harmless, but it quietly erodes mental independence. A mind untrained to think is easily influenced, confused, and overwhelmed. Learning to think means slowing down your intake and increasing your reflection. It means asking simple, powerful questions. Why does this matter? What assumptions are being made? What is missing? How does this relate to what I already know? These questions transform raw information into insight. Without them, information is just noise. People with dangerous intelligence do not rush to agree or disagree. They pause. They examine. They resist the urge to form instant opinions for the sake of certainty. They understand that clarity requires effort, and that shallow confidence is often worse than honest uncertainty. New ideas are tested, turned over, and weighed against reality, not merely judged by how convincing they sound. Another hidden danger of constant consumption is mental clutter. A mind saturated with input loses focus. Thoughts become fragmented. Ideas jump from one to the next without depth. Thinking demands space, silence, and time. If your mind is always absorbing, it never organizes what it already knows. That is why some of the clearest thinkers are also the most selective about what they consume. This does not mean abandoning learning. It means learning with intention. Read less, but think more. Listen carefully, but reflect deeply. Encounter a new idea and sit with it. Explain it in your own words. Test where it applies and where it fails. Ask yourself how it could be wrong. This kind of engagement strengthens your mind like resistance strengthens muscle. True thinking is often uncomfortable. It forces you to face what you do not know. It challenges long-held beliefs. It demands patience in a world obsessed with speed. But discomfort signals growth. When your mind stretches beyond familiar patterns, it becomes sharper, more flexible, more resilient. You will notice a change when you prioritize thinking over consumption. Conversations shift. You listen more intently. You speak with precision. You stop being swayed by volume and become guided by reason. You no longer echo what everyone else says. You express what you genuinely understand. Information is everywhere. Wisdom is built. It grows through attention, reflection, and disciplined thought. Anyone can collect facts. Few can make sense of them. That difference is where intelligence reveals itself. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, protect your mind from overload. Train it with questions. Strengthen it with reflection. Because in a world of constant noise, the person who can think clearly does more than survive, they lead. Chapter 3. Slow down your thinking to see more. In today's world, speed is often mistaken for intelligence. Quick answers, snap decisions, instant reactions, they all look impressive. But most mistakes aren't made by people who think too slowly. They happen because people think too fast. They leap to conclusions, act on impulse, and mistake urgency for importance. True intelligence understands the power of slowing down. When you move too quickly, you see only what is obvious, the loudest signal, the strongest emotion, the most immediate threat or reward. Life, however, is rarely so simple. Beneath the surface lie hidden patterns, unseen motives, cascading consequences, and long-term effects that only emerge when you pause and reflect. Slowing your thinking is not hesitation, it is depth. Consider how many avoidable problems could have been prevented with just a moment of patience. A conversation that escalated into conflict, a decision that felt right in the moment but caused regret later, or an opportunity acted on too quickly without understanding the true cost. These are not signs of low intelligence. They are signs of an untrained mind, a mind that reacts before it comprehends. Dangerously intelligent people cultivate the habit of pause. They create space between events and their responses. That space may last only a few seconds, but it transforms everything. In that moment, emotion settles, perspective expands, and alternatives appear. Urgency loses its grip, and what truly matters becomes clear. Slowing your thinking also shields you from manipulation. Those who rush are easy to pressure. Fear, deadlines, and artificial urgency can push them into poor choices. When you slow down, you remove that leverage. You begin to make decisions on your terms, not someone else's. This does not mean avoiding action. It means acting deliberately. Gather enough understanding before you move. Ask yourself simple but critical questions. What am I overlooking? What if I wait? What are the long-term consequences of this choice? These questions do not delay life. They prevent unnecessary damage. Clarity requires calm. A racing mind cannot perceive reality accurately. Stress narrows vision. Anxiety distorts judgment. Slowing down allows your nervous system to reset, and suddenly your thinking sharpens. You notice details you would have missed. You hear what others overlook. You sense subtle discrepancies before they become problems. Slow thinking also brings confidence. When you are not rushing, you no longer compete for attention. You feel no need to respond immediately to prove yourself. Silence becomes comfortable, a signal both to yourself and to others that you are grounded. You are not being swept along by the moment. You are in control. Start practicing slow thinking with small choices. Pause before responding in conversation. Delay decisions that carry consequences. Give yourself time to reflect rather than react. Over time, this becomes natural. Your default state shifts from urgency to awareness. As this habit strengthens, you will notice remarkable changes. Your accuracy improves. Mistakes decrease. Your decisions become wiser. You stop apologizing for errors that could have been avoided. Life feels less chaotic, not because the world has changed, but because you are no longer rushing blindly through it. In a culture that glorifies speed, slowing down is a hidden advantage. It allows you to see what others miss, to avoid traps that ensnare most people. Thinking transforms from reflex to tool. And when you can think clearly under pressure, you gain something rare: control. Slow down, observe, reflect. Clarity is waiting there. Chapter 4. Build mental independence. One of the most crucial steps toward real intelligence is learning to think for yourself. Many people don't realize how much of their thinking is borrowed. Their opinions are shaped by trends, social circles, headlines, and the loudest voices around them. They believe they are choosing, but often they are simply absorbing. Mental independence begins the moment you notice this pattern and decide to break it. The world rewards conformity. Agreeing is easier than questioning. Following is safer than standing alone. From a young age, we are taught to seek validation externally before seeking truth within. Over time, this habit creates dependency. Instead of asking, "What do I think?" we ask, "What am I supposed to think?" And that habit erodes judgment and weakens confidence. Dangerously intelligent people do the opposite. They are willing to endure temporary discomfort in exchange for permanent freedom. They don't reject popular ideas merely to be different, but they also don't accept them without scrutiny. Beliefs are tested against reality, reason, and experience. If they hold up, they are retained. If they fail, they are discarded, regardless of how widely accepted they are. Building mental independence requires courage. The moment you stop agreeing automatically, you risk misunderstanding, being labeled difficult, or even being considered wrong. Independence has always carried a cost. The question is whether you are willing to pay it, choosing to think for yourself, or whether you prefer the ease of blending in. A critical part of this independence is learning to sit with uncertainty. Without the crutch of group opinion, there will be times when you simply don't know what to believe. Many people rush to adopt opinions just to escape that discomfort. Independent thinkers allow themselves to remain in uncertainty. They wait, They gather information. They reflect. They understand that uncertainty is not weakness. It is the early stage of clarity forming. Another trap to avoid is emotional attachment to beliefs. When your identity is tied to what you believe, thinking stops and defending begins. Mental independence means being willing to change your mind. When evidence shifts, flexibility is not inconsistency. It is intelligence in motion. A rigid mind may seem strong, but it breaks under pressure. A flexible mind adapts and grows. Independence also comes from controlling what enters your mind. Constant exposure to noise, outrage, and unfiltered opinions makes clarity impossible. Independent thinkers are selective. They value depth over volume, understanding that attention is limited and protecting it is an essential discipline. As your mental independence grows, so does your confidence. You no longer need constant agreement to feel secure. You can listen without reacting immediately. You can hold your position calmly without feeling the need to convince others. This quiet confidence signals that you are grounded in your own thinking, not swayed by every shift in the room. Mental independence does not isolate you, it strengthens your relationships. When you are not seeking approval, interactions become honest. You can respect others' perspectives without being controlled by them. You can learn from disagreement instead of fearing it. Conversations turn into exchanges, not competitions. Building mental independence is a process of daily choices. Question instead of repeating. Think instead of reacting. Pause instead of rushing to agree. Over time, these choices compound. You develop a private, reliable inner compass. You know where you stand even when others are unsure. In a world flooded with borrowed opinions, an independent mind stands out, not because it is loud, but because it is steady. And that steadiness becomes a source of enduring strength, one you can rely on for the rest of your life. Chapter 5. Ask better questions. Before you chase answers. Most people spend their lives chasing answers. They want quick solutions, step-by-step instructions, and certainty as fast as possible. When things go wrong, the first instinct is to ask, what should I do? Dangerously intelligent people start differently. They understand a fundamental truth. The quality of your answers can never exceed the quality of your questions. A shallow question produces a shallow result. A rushed question leads to a rushed decision. Many problems persist not because answers are missing, but because the questions being asked are wrong. Your mind moves in the direction of the questions you ask. Change your questions, and you change your thinking. Better questions slow you down in the right way. They interrupt reactive thinking and demand clarity, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? An intelligent mind asks, what can I learn from this? Instead of asking, how do I escape this discomfort? It asks, what is this discomfort pointing me toward? These subtle shifts change everything. Dangerously intelligent people use questions to explore, not escape. They don't ask to avoid responsibility or justify inaction. They ask to understand structure, cause, and consequence. They are curious about how things actually work, not just how they feel in the moment. Curiosity, when disciplined, becomes a powerful thinking tool. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is questioning your own assumptions. Assumptions are invisible beliefs that silently guide behavior. When something frustrates you, ask, what am I assuming here? You may find that expectations were unrealistic, outdated, or never examined at all. Questioning assumptions often dissolves problems before you even try to solve them. Good questions also protect you from being misled. In a world of loud, confident voices, the ability to ask calm, precise questions keeps you grounded. Instead of accepting statements at face value, ask, compared to what? Based on what evidence? Under what conditions does this hold true? These questions do not make you cynical, they make you clear. Asking better questions also improves relationships. When you stop assuming motives and start seeking understanding, conflict softens. When you pursue clarity instead of victory, conversations deepen. People feel heard, and you gain insights that reactive behavior would have blocked. Intelligence is as much about listening as it is about analyzing. It's important to note, better questions do not always bring comfort. Sometimes they reveal inconvenient truths. Sometimes they highlight areas where you need to grow, change, or take responsibility. Avoiding these questions doesn't protect you, it only delays progress. Intelligent people are willing to face discomfort because they value long-term clarity over short-term relief. You can practice this daily. When making a decision, ask, what matters most here? When feeling stuck, ask, what am I avoiding? When something feels urgent, ask, will this matter a year from now? Over time, these questions become automatic, part of your internal dialogue. Remember this: answers close thinking, questions open it. Rushing to answers stops exploration too soon. Learning to live with better questions gives your mind space to work, and it is in that space that insight forms. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, do not obsess over having the right answers. Obsess over asking the right questions. The right question, asked honestly and patiently, has a way of leading you exactly where you need to go. Chapter 6. Control your emotions before they control you. Emotions are incredibly powerful. They shape how you see the world, influence your decisions, and drive your actions. Yet most people treat them as unquestionable authorities. When anger rises, they lash out. When fear appears, they retreat. When excitement strikes, they rush forward. This automatic obedience is not strength, it is surrender. Dangerously intelligent people begin by understanding emotions rather than obeying them. Controlling your emotions does not mean suppressing or eliminating them. It means changing your relationship with them. Emotions are signals, not commands. They tell you what's happening inside, but they are not designed to make your choices for you. When emotions dominate, logic is silenced. And when logic is silenced, mistakes follow. Think of times you acted on anger, fear, or impulse, decisions that later caused regret, missed opportunities, or damaged trust. Intelligence was present, but it wasn't in control. The louder the emotion, the greater the cost. Those who are dangerously intelligent create space between feeling and action. They allow themselves to feel fully, yet they do not respond immediately. They observe their internal state the way a scientist observes data. I am angry. I am anxious. I am excited. Simply naming the emotion creates distance, and in that distance, choice returns. This skill is especially vital under pressure. Stress amplifies emotion and narrows perception. When feelings surge, the mind focuses on immediate relief instead of long-term benefit. Pausing, breathing, and allowing emotions to settle is not weakness, it is strategy. It ensures that the wave passes before it dictates your future. Another essential aspect is recognizing patterns in your emotional reactions. Many responses are not about the present moment at all. They are echoes of past experiences, insecurities, or unmet expectations. When you react automatically, you are often responding to history, not reality. Intelligence asks, is this about now Or is it about something old? That single question can prevent unnecessary mistakes. Emotional control also transforms how others experience you. People quickly sense whether you are reactive or composed. The reactive are easily provoked, manipulated, or destabilized. The composed set the tone of their environment. Calm becomes their signature, and over time, calm becomes authority. This does not mean suppressing expression or becoming distant. It means expressing emotions intentionally, choosing when to speak, when to wait, and when to let things pass. You stop giving others instant access to your internal state. That choice protects your energy and clarity. Building this skill starts with small steps. Pause before responding to criticism. Delay major decisions when emotions run high. Notice the physical signs: tightness, heat, restlessness that signal emotional activation. These are warnings, not emergencies. Respond with awareness, not reflex, and control is gradually strengthened. Over time, a remarkable shift occurs. Emotions still arise, but they no longer hijack your mind. You become less reactive, more deliberate. You stop being surprised by your own behavior. This consistency builds self-trust, and self-trust is one of the strongest foundations for confidence. Remember, every major regret traces back to a moment when emotion overruled judgment. Every major breakthrough stems from a moment when someone remained composed under pressure. Master your emotions, and your decisions will finally reflect your true intelligence. If you want to be dangerously intelligent, this skill is non-negotiable. Control your emotions, and you reclaim the power to choose wisely. Chapter 7. Understand people without needing their approval. One of life's most subtle traps is the need to be liked. It hides behind politeness, cooperation, and even kindness. Yet when approval becomes a requirement, clarity fades. Words soften when they should be firm. Decisions bend when they should stand. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, thinking becomes compromised. Dangerously intelligent people understand others deeply without depending on their acceptance. Most people don't realize how much the need for approval drives their behavior. They say yes when they mean no. They remain silent when they should speak. They nod publicly while resenting privately. This isn't a lack of intelligence, it's fear of rejection, and fear distorts judgment. Seeking approval clouds perception. Understanding people requires observation, not dependence. When you are desperate to be liked, you stop seeing clearly. You interpret words instead of actions. You overlook patterns because recognizing them might create discomfort. But when you release that need, your perception sharpens. You notice tone, timing, consistency, and motive. You see people as they truly are, not as you wish them to be. Those who are dangerously intelligent pay attention to behavior over promises. They observe how people act under pressure, not only when life is easy. This level of insight is only possible when you are emotionally independent. Dependence creates blind spots. Independence removes them. Letting go of approval does not make you cold or disrespectful. It means choosing truth over comfort. You can still be kind, fair, and respectful without surrendering your judgment. In fact, real respect often grows when others sense you are not trying to please them. Calm independence carries a quiet strength that people recognize even if they don't fully understand it. When you no longer seek approval, communication changes. You listen patiently because you are not waiting for your turn to impress. You speak clearly because your words are not filtered through fear of rejection. You can disagree without hostility and accept disagreement without defensiveness. Emotional stability makes conversation more honest and effective. There is freedom in this shift. You stop carrying the weight of others' opinions. Praise no longer inflates you, and criticism no longer crushes you. Feedback becomes information, not identity. You adjust when needed, without losing your center. Understanding people without needing their approval also protects you from manipulation. Many forms of control rely on emotional triggers, guilt, flattery, or fear of disapproval. When these hooks no longer work, influence loses its power. You evaluate requests, offers, and demands based on logic and alignment, not pressure or fear. This skill grows gradually. Start by noticing when you alter behavior to gain approval or withhold truth to avoid discomfort. These are not failures, they are signals. Each time you choose clarity over approval, you strengthen your independence. Over time, something remarkable happens. People who value honesty begin to respect you more. Those who relied on your compliance may resist initially, but that resistance often confirms that your growth is real. Not everyone will be comfortable with your independence, and that is okay. You are not here to be universally approved. You are here to live intelligently. Understanding others deeply while remaining emotionally free is rare. It allows you to connect without losing yourself, lead without dominating, and navigate relationships with clarity instead of confusion. Release the need for approval, and you gain something far more valuable: control over your own thinking. That control is what lets intelligence operate at its highest level. Chapter 8. Speak less. Observe more. In a world that prizes constant expression, silence is often misunderstood. Talking quickly, sharing opinions freely, and reacting instantly are mistaken for confidence and intelligence. Yet, those who speak the most often know the least about what is truly happening. Dangerously intelligent people understand the power of restraint. They know that observation always comes before expression. When you speak less, you notice more. You hear not only the words, but how they are said. You detect pauses, tone shifts, contradictions, and patterns that others miss. While most talk to release tension or prove presence, intelligent observers listen to gather information. That difference alone creates a significant advantage. Silence creates space, and in that space, people reveal themselves. They fill quiet moments with explanations, justifications, and unfiltered thoughts. Rushing to speak interrupts this process. You trade insight for noise, but by staying quiet, you let reality show itself without interference. This is not about fear or avoidance. Strategic silence is intentional. It is the choice to prioritize understanding over expression. Not every thought needs to be shared. Not every moment requires a response. Composure without words signals inner control. Many conflicts escalate because of unnecessary speech. A comment said too quickly, a defense offered too soon, an explanation given when no one is listening. Speaking less reduces friction, protects your position, and preserves options. Words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. Silence, however, keeps your choices open. It allows you to time your responses, to adjust, and to speak with precision when it matters most. Observation sharpens judgment. When you are not preoccupied with talking, your mind stays engaged with what is happening. You notice power dynamics, emotional reactions, leadership patterns, and subtle cues that others overlook. This awareness leads to smarter decisions later. Speaking less also regulates emotion. Talking often amplifies feelings. Silence allows them to settle. By resisting the urge to react verbally, you give yourself space to regain clarity. Many of the smartest responses are born in these quiet pauses, not in immediate reaction. At first, silence can feel uncomfortable. Social gaps may feel awkward, and it may tempt you to fill them. But that discomfort fades. Over time, silence becomes natural, and you grow comfortable not filling every gap. That comfort signals confidence. People recognize when someone is not desperate to be heard. Speaking less does not mean never speaking. It means choosing carefully when to speak. When you do, your words carry weight. They are rare, deliberate, and grounded. People listen differently when they know your voice is not casual. Practicing this skill requires intention. Pause before responding. Let others finish fully. Allow silence to exist without rushing to end it. Ask yourself, does what I am about to say add value or merely noise? Over time, this habit becomes automatic. In a noisy world, clarity belongs to those who can observe quietly. Speaking less and watching more is not withdrawal, it is preparation. It lets you move with insight rather than impulse. Silence sharpens intelligence. Use it wisely. Chapter 9. Think in terms of long-term consequences. Most people live for the immediate moment. They make choices based on how something feels right now, how convenient it is today, or how quickly it resolves an immediate problem. The future is treated like a distant idea rather than a living reality. Dangerously intelligent people approach life differently. They think ahead. They look beyond the present and ask, where will this lead? Short-term thinking is tempting. It offers instant relief, comfort, or certainty. But that quick satisfaction often hides long-term costs. A decision that feels easy today can become a burden tomorrow. A shortcut that saves minutes now may cost opportunities later. True intelligence comes from resisting the lure of immediacy and following the chain of consequences forward. Thinking long-term doesn't mean predicting everything perfectly. It means respecting cause and effect. Every choice sets something in motion. Words influence relationships. Habits shape character. Small. Repeated actions eventually create outcomes that feel inevitable. When you grasp this principle, casual decision-making stops. Many regrets exist because people ignored this reality. They say, I didn't think it would matter, or I didn't see that coming. Often the signs were there, but convenience, emotion, or impatience were louder. Long-term thinkers pause and ask, if I keep doing this, where does it lead? That single question filters out countless poor choices. Dangerously intelligent people also understand compounding. The future isn't built by one dramatic action. It is built through consistent behavior over time. Discipline compounds, learning compounds, and so do poor habits. Thinking ahead makes you more patient with progress and less tolerant of self-sabotage. This mindset changes how you handle discomfort. Short-term thinkers avoid pain at all costs. Long-term thinkers see temporary difficulty as an investment. They delay gratification not because they are deprived, but because they are strategic. Long-term thinking also brings emotional stability. When your focus is only on the present, every setback feels catastrophic, but viewing life as a longer arc gives perspective. A bad day becomes data, not disaster. A mistake becomes a lesson, not a verdict. This clarity protects your confidence and keeps you moving forward. Relationships benefit too. Long-term thinkers focus on patterns, not promises. They notice consistency rather than charm. They trust behavior over time, not fleeting emotions. This approach prevents repeated disappointment and helps build stronger alliances. Practicing long-term thinking starts with slowing down decisions that matter. Ask yourself, how will this affect my future self? What habits am I reinforcing? Does this align with the direction I want my life to go? These questions anchor you beyond the immediate moment. Over time, this approach becomes natural. You stop being surprised by outcomes because you've already considered them. You feel less reactive and more prepared. Life becomes less chaotic, not because it is easier, but because you are thinking ahead. In a world obsessed with urgency and instant reward, long-term thinking is a quiet form of power. It allows you to build instead of chase, to position instead of react, and to act with intention instead of impulse. Think beyond today. Your future is already listening to the choices you make right now. Chapter 10. Spot and neutralize your mental weaknesses. Everyone carries mental weak points. The difference is that most people ignore them, excuse them, or blame the world for them. Dangerously intelligent people take a different approach. They face weaknesses head-on, without excuses, without drama. What you refuse to confront will quietly run your life. Mental weaknesses are not always obvious. They often hide behind habits, personality traits, or comforting explanations. Procrastination becomes waiting for the right time. Overreacting is called passion. Avoidance is framed as protecting peace. These labels make weaknesses feel acceptable, but they do not make them harmless. True intelligence begins when you call things by their real name. The hardest part of self-honesty is separating ego from observation. Ego protects your self-image. It rationalizes mistakes and defends familiar patterns. Observation, on the other hand, simply notices. It asks, where do I repeatedly struggle? In which moments do I lose control? Which situations bring out my worst thinking? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are incredibly powerful. Dangerously intelligent people monitor their behavior, not obsessively, but honestly. They track patterns, pay attention to recurring outcomes, and recognize when repeated failures point inward rather than outward. That insight alone places them ahead of most people. Identifying weaknesses is not about self-criticism. It's about self-responsibility. Beating yourself up wastes energy. Understanding yourself creates leverage. When you know your weak points, you can work around them. You design systems that protect you when discipline falters or emotions rise. For instance, if fatigue leads to poor decisions, you avoid critical choices late at night. If you tend to avoid difficult conversations, you schedule them deliberately instead of waiting for the perfect moment. If distractions easily pull you off track, you remove them from your environment instead of relying solely on willpower. This is intelligence in motion. Another common weakness is overconfidence. Believing you are immune to mistakes is itself a mistake. Intelligent people stay cautious about their own judgment. They review decisions, seek feedback, and ask, what might I be overlooking? This humility is not insecurity, it's precision. Neutralizing weaknesses doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means reducing their impact. Certain tendencies may never disappear completely, but awareness transforms blind spots into manageable elements. Once a weakness is recognized, it loses much of its power. This process also builds trust with yourself. By consistently confronting your weaknesses instead of ignoring them, you become reliable. You stop surprising yourself with behaviors that lead to regret. That reliability creates a confidence rooted in consistency, not ego. Remember, growth isn't always about piling on new skills. Often, progress comes faster when you remove friction. Clearing away weaknesses opens space for your strengths to shine. Approach self-reflection as a factual exercise, not an emotional one. Ask, what worked? What didn't? What patterns repeat? Over time, this habit strengthens awareness and sharpens judgment to become dangerously intelligent. You must be willing to see yourself clearly, not as you wish to be, not as you fear to be, but as you truly are. That clarity may be uncomfortable, but it is liberating. Identify your mental weaknesses. Reduce their influence. Watch as your mind becomes lighter, sharper, and more in control, and watch your life follow suit. Chapter 11. Learn to decide without perfect information. One of the biggest barriers to progress in life is the need for certainty. Many people delay decisions, telling themselves they need more data, more clarity, more reassurance. Often, what looks like caution is actually fear. Dangerously intelligent people understand a hard truth. Perfect information almost never exists. Waiting for it can quietly cost you years. Life does not reward those who wait until everything is clear. It rewards those who can think clearly within uncertainty. Most meaningful decisions, career moves, relationships, investments, opportunities, are made with incomplete information. If you demand certainty before acting, hesitation takes control of your life. This does not mean acting recklessly. There is a difference between thoughtful risk and blind impulse. Intelligent decision-making is about weighing what you know, acknowledging what you don't, and moving forward anyway. It is saying, this is not guaranteed, but it aligns with my goals, and taking responsibility for the outcome. Fear often masquerades as logic. Endless what-ifs appear to protect you. What if I fail? What if something better comes along? What if I'm wrong? These questions feel rational, but when they prevent action, they become traps. Dangerously intelligent people recognize when analysis has slipped into avoidance. Confidence is built through decisions, not before them. Many believe they must feel certain to act. In reality, confidence comes after action. Each decision strengthens your judgment regardless of the outcome. Mistakes teach valuable lessons. Indecision teaches nothing. Learning to decide without perfect information also sharpens intuition. Intuition is not magic. It is pattern recognition built through experience. The more decisions you make, the more data your mind collects. Over time, you sense when something is right or wrong before you can fully explain why. But this skill develops only through action, not observation. Another key principle is setting decision thresholds. Not every choice deserves the same level of scrutiny. Small decisions should be made quickly. Larger ones deserve more thought, but not endless delay. Intelligent people know when they have enough information and recognize diminishing returns. Then they move forward. Accepting responsibility is essential. Deciding with incomplete information means owning the consequences. Blaming circumstances or others weakens your intelligence. Taking responsibility strengthens it. You learn faster, adjust better, and recover more quickly when things don't go as planned. This mindset also reduces anxiety. Ironically, indecision causes more stress than most decisions. Being stuck between options keeps the mind tense. Choosing, even an imperfect path, restores movement. Movement creates clarity. Dangerously intelligent people reflect on their choices. They do not obsess, but they ask what worked, what didn't. What would I do differently next time? Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Without it, mistakes repeat. Practice making decisions. Start small. Choose deliberately. Commit. Notice how often the fear of being wrong was worse than the result itself. Over time, your tolerance for uncertainty grows and your judgment becomes stronger. Life does not wait for your certainty. It moves forward, with or without your decision. Choosing to decide is choosing to participate. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, stop waiting for perfect clarity. Move with partial information, steady thinking, and full responsibility. That is how progress is made. Chapter 12. Build systems that think for you. One of the biggest misconceptions about intelligence is that it thrives on constant effort. Many believe that smart lives are built on willpower, motivation, and endless decision-making. In reality, the most intelligent people do the opposite. They reduce the number of decisions they have to make. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. A system is a structure that guides behavior automatically. It removes friction from good choices and adds friction to bad ones. When you build systems, you stop asking yourself what to do in the moment. The decision has already been made. This frees your mind for deeper thinking instead of constant self-negotiation. Willpower is unreliable. It fluctuates with mood, energy, and stress. On your best days, it feels strong. On your worst days, it disappears. Systems, however, don't care how you feel. They operate consistently. That consistency is what makes them powerful. Dangerously intelligent people design their lives to protect their thinking. They create routines that reduce mental clutter. They organize their environment so focus becomes the default. They automate habits that support long-term goals. This is not rigidity, it is strategy. Think about how much energy is wasted deciding the same things over and over. What to work on first, when to rest, how to respond to familiar situations. Each decision drains mental resources. Systems remove that drain. They turn recurring choices into automatic actions. Building systems starts with identifying where your judgment fails under pressure. Do you lose focus when overwhelmed? Make poor choices when tired? Procrastinate when tasks feel unclear? These are not character flaws. They are design flaws. Fix the system, and behavior improves naturally. For example, instead of relying on discipline to focus, create a system that limits distractions. Instead of trusting motivation to exercise, schedule it as a non-negotiable appointment. Instead of hoping you'll remember important priorities, write them down and review them daily. These small structures protect intelligence when energy and emotions fluctuate. Systems also prevent decision fatigue. When your mind is not overloaded with trivial choices, it performs better on the important ones. This is why clear thinkers often live simply. They minimize unnecessary complexity so their attention can go where it matters most. Another advantage of systems is resilience. When life gets stressful, habits are often the first things to break. Systems hold even under pressure. They give you something to return to when focus is lost. This stability keeps you grounded during chaos. Designing effective systems requires honesty. You must accept how you actually behave, not how you wish you behaved. Intelligent systems work with human nature, not against it. They anticipate moments of weakness and plan for them. This is not pessimism, it is realism. Over time, systems compound. Small daily structures create massive long-term outcomes. When good behavior becomes automatic, progress feels effortless, not because the work disappears, but because resistance did. Building systems that think for you does not make you less intelligent. It makes you more strategic. It allows your intelligence to focus where it matters most: learning, creating, deciding, and adapting. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, stop relying on motivation. Build systems that support clarity, discipline, and consistency. When your systems are strong, your thinking stays sharp, even on your worst days. Chapter 13. Use discipline to sharpen your mind. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many see it as restriction, pressure, or punishment. They associate it with forcing themselves to do things they don't want to do. But in reality, discipline is not about force. It is about freedom. Dangerously intelligent people understand that discipline is what clears the mind, strengthens focus, and creates mental sharpness. A distracted mind is a weak mind. When your attention is scattered, thinking becomes shallow. You jump between tasks, thoughts, and impulses without depth or direction. Discipline creates boundaries. It tells your mind where to focus and where not to wander. Within those boundaries, clarity grows. Think of discipline as mental alignment. It brings your actions into agreement with your intentions. Without it, even the smartest ideas remain unused. Intelligence without discipline stays theoretical. Discipline turns thinking into action and action into results. Dangerously intelligent people use discipline to protect their energy. They understand that mental fatigue dulls judgment, so they structure their days to reduce unnecessary decisions, distractions, and emotional noise. They do not leave their attention exposed to constant interruption. They guard it carefully because attention is the fuel of thought. Discipline also strengthens patience. When you train yourself to follow routines, complete tasks, and delay gratification, your mind becomes calmer. You stop craving constant stimulation. You become comfortable with focus. That comfort allows deeper thinking to emerge. Many breakthroughs come not from sudden inspiration, but from sustained attention. This kind of discipline is not rigid. It is intentional. It is choosing consistency over chaos. It is doing small, important things even when they don't feel exciting. Over time, these small acts build mental endurance. Your ability to concentrate improves. Your resistance to distraction increases. Your thinking becomes steadier under pressure. Another benefit of discipline is emotional regulation. When life lacks structure, emotions easily take over. Fatigue leads to irritability. Stress leads to impulsive decisions. Discipline stabilizes your internal state. Regular sleep, movement, reflection, and focused work create emotional balance. That balance supports clear thinking. Discipline also builds trust with yourself. Each time you follow through on a commitment, even a small one, you reinforce self-respect. You begin to rely on your own word. This reliability removes internal conflict. When your mind is not fighting your behavior, thinking becomes smoother and more confident. Many people wait to feel motivated before acting. Intelligent people act first and let motivation follow. Discipline creates momentum. Momentum creates motivation. This order matters. Waiting for motivation keeps you stuck. Discipline moves you forward. You don't need extreme discipline to sharpen your mind. You need consistent discipline. Simple routines practiced daily are enough. Set times for focused thinking. Limit distractions intentionally. Commit to finishing what you start. These practices train your mind to stay engaged instead of drifting. Over time, discipline changes how you experience effort. What once felt difficult becomes normal. What once required willpower becomes automatic. This is when discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. You become someone who follows through, who stays focused, who thinks clearly. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, stop seeing discipline as a burden. See it as a sharpening tool. It removes mental rust. It strengthens focus. It protects clarity. Discipline does not limit intelligence, it reveals it. Chapter 14. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand. One of the most exhausting habits you can develop is over-explaining yourself. You clarify, justify, defend, and repeat, hoping that if you find the right words, understanding will finally appear. But dangerously intelligent people recognize a hard truth. Not everyone is confused. Some people simply do not want to understand, and no amount of explanation will change that. Many misunderstandings are not intellectual problems, they are emotional or motivational ones. When someone is committed to their perspective, threatened by your growth, or invested in misunderstanding you, clarity becomes irrelevant. Explaining yourself in those moments does not create understanding. It drains your energy and weakens your position. Intelligent people learn to recognize the difference between genuine curiosity and resistance. Genuine curiosity asks questions, listens, and reflects. Resistance interrupts, dismisses, and argues in circles. When you mistake resistance for curiosity, you keep talking long after silence would have served you better. The urge to explain often comes from the need to be validated. You want to be seen as reasonable, fair, or good. But when you need approval, you hand control to the listener. You begin shaping your words around their reactions. Your thinking bends. Your confidence shrinks. Dangerously intelligent people do not depend on being understood to remain steady. This does not mean becoming indifferent or arrogant. It means choosing discernment. You explain when explanation has value. You stop when it doesn't. You learn that clarity is not something you force. It is something others must be willing to receive. Over-explaining also weakens your communication. The more you justify, the less confident you sound. Short. Clear statements carry more authority than long defenses. When you trust your judgment, your words become simpler. When you doubt it, they multiply. There is also freedom in accepting that misunderstanding is sometimes unavoidable. Original thinkers are often misunderstood before they are respected. Calm people are misunderstood as distant. Quiet people are misunderstood as weak. Disciplined people are misunderstood as rigid. These misunderstandings say more about perception than truth. Dangerously intelligent people let results speak. They allow time, consistency, and outcomes to communicate what words cannot. They do not argue their worth, they demonstrate it. This approach protects energy and preserves dignity. Learning when to stop explaining requires self-trust. You must believe that your reasoning does not need constant defense. You must be comfortable standing alone in your understanding. That comfort is not isolation, it is maturity. Notice how often you explain yourself to people who have already decided. Notice how drained you feel afterward. That exhaustion is a signal. It tells you that your effort is misplaced. Silence would have served you better. As you practice restraint, something shifts. You become more selective with your words. You explain once clearly and move on. You stop chasing agreement. You start respecting your own time and mental space. Not everyone deserves access to your reasoning. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Intelligence knows when to speak and when to let silence do the work. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand. Your clarity does not require their permission. Chapter 15. Live like a strategist, not a reactor. Most people spend their lives reacting. They react to messages, moods, problems, opinions, and pressure. Their days are shaped by what shows up, not by what matters most. This constant reaction creates exhaustion, confusion, and a sense of always being behind. Dangerously intelligent people move differently. They live strategically. A strategist does not wait for life to happen and then respond emotionally. A strategist observes, anticipates, and positions. This does not mean controlling everything. It means choosing direction instead of drifting. When you live strategically, your actions are guided by intention, not impulse. Reaction feels urgent. Strategy feels calm. Reaction is driven by emotion. Strategy is driven by clarity. When you react, you give the moment control over you. When you strategize, you keep control over yourself. That difference shapes your entire life. Living like a strategist starts with defining what matters. If you don't know your priorities, everything becomes a priority. You become busy without progress. Strategic thinkers identify what deserves attention and what doesn't. They say no more often than yes. They protect their time, energy, and focus with discipline. Strategists also think in systems, not events. They understand that outcomes are built over time. A single bad day does not derail them, and a single good day does not make them careless. They look for patterns. They adjust course gradually instead of overreacting emotionally. Another key trait is anticipation. Strategists ask, what's likely to happen next? They prepare for obstacles before they arrive. They don't wait for pressure to force action. This anticipation reduces stress and increases effectiveness. When challenges appear, they are ready. Living strategically also means responding, not reacting. Response is intentional. It includes pause, evaluation, and choice. Reaction is immediate and emotional. Developing the habit of response keeps you aligned with your long-term direction. Strategic living requires boundaries. Without them, everything interrupts you. Strategists decide in advance how they will handle common situations. This reduces emotional decision-making and preserves mental clarity. As you adopt this mindset, life feels less chaotic. You are no longer pulled in 10 directions. You move with purpose. You recover faster from setbacks. You stay grounded, even when circumstances change. Dangerously intelligent people don't try to win every moment. They aim to win the direction. They accept temporary discomfort to protect long-term stability. They trade urgency for alignment. Living like a strategist is not about being rigid. It is about being intentional. You stay flexible without becoming reactive. You adapt without losing direction. This way of living builds quiet confidence. You stop feeling rushed. You stop being easily thrown off balance. You trust your process. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, stop reacting to life. Step back, observe, decide, move. Live like a strategist. Your future depends on it. Dangerous intelligence is not something you are born with. It is something you build, refine, and protect over time. It is not loud, flashy, or desperate to be seen. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in self-control, clarity, and deliberate action. Throughout this audiobook, you have been guided toward a way of thinking that does not react blindly to the world, but understands it, navigates it, and moves through it with intention. You have learned that intelligence begins within. Before strategy, before knowledge, before influence, there is mastery of self. When you control your emotions, slow down your thinking, and resist the urge to react, you regain ownership of your life. You stop being pulled by circumstances and start choosing your direction. That alone separates you from the majority. You have also seen that intelligence is not about knowing everything. It is about thinking clearly, asking better questions, and making decisions even when certainty is unavailable. Life will never hand you perfect information. Waiting for it is a quiet form of surrender. Moving forward with responsibility, discipline, and awareness is how growth actually happens. Dangerous intelligence is built through habits, not moments. It lives in how you listen, how you pause, how you choose silence, and how you design your days. It grows when you stop explaining yourself unnecessarily, stop chasing approval, and stop reacting to every emotional signal. It strengthens when you build systems, sharpen discipline, and think long-term instead of moment to moment. This way of living may feel uncomfortable at first. You may be misunderstood. You may feel slower than others. You may feel out of step with a world addicted to speed and noise. But over time, you will notice something powerful. You will make fewer mistakes. You will waste less energy. You will feel calmer under pressure, and your decisions will begin to compound in your favor. Dangerous intelligence carries responsibility. When you see clearly, you must act wisely. When you understand people, you must choose integrity. When you gain control, you must use it to build, not to dominate. True intelligence is not about superiority. It is about stewardship of your own mind. This audiobook is not meant to be finished and forgotten. It is meant to be lived. Revisit these principles. Apply them slowly. Let them shape how you think, speak, and act. The goal is not perfection, but progress. Not speed, but depth. If you commit to this path, you will develop something rare in the modern world: a calm, disciplined, independent mind. And that mind, clear, patient, and intentional, is one of the most powerful tools you can possess. Carry it wisely.